All right, so let's get started. Let's actually build out our hash table class. Now remember, it's not going to be revolutionary. We're doing this really to understand how this all works. Okay, so here's the starter code. You can just copy this or type it out. I'll include it as a file. It's also in the slides. We have our basic hash table class. We have our constructor, which accepts a size for how large the hash table should be. And there's a default value of 53 because we want it to be a prime number. So if we don't include a size, it will just be 53. Then what we do is make a new array of that size and store that as key map. This is where we'll store all of the data, this .keymap. Then I just copied over the hash function. I changed it slightly because now we don't have to pass in the size of the hash table because it's in a class, so we can access keymap. And you can see here, we're modulusing modding by this .keymap.length. So here's the hash function. We will be adding methods like set and get, which will then be calling _hash, passing in a key, and getting a value. Okay, so here's where we're going to start. Our first two methods are set and get. So set accepts a value and a key. I should say that the other way around. A key and a value, like pink, corresponds to the value, whatever that hexadecimal code was, 00FF something something. Key and a value. And what we're going to need to do is hash the key. That's the first thing. Figure out where to store it. And then the second part, we're doing this with separate chaining. So it's a little more complicated than just storing the data there because we're going to store it in a nested structure. So just to remind you, rewind here, what that really means is when we hash something, if we get 4, we're going to go to index of 4 and check, is there anything here? If not, we're going to store it there, but we store it in an array, so a nested list already, so that next time through we can just push on to this list. If we have something else, it's really easy to add it in. So basically, you're never going to just store the data here alone on its own. If it's a single item, you're still going to put it in a nested structure. So your logic will be slightly different. You need to hash the key and get that number, go to that position, and check if there's already data there. If it is, or if there is, just push this on to the array that's already there. If not, put an array there first, and then put the data inside that array. So that's the pseudocode for set. You accept a key and a value, you hash the key, then you store the key value pair in the hash table via separate chaining, meaning in a nested structure. Okay, now the way that get works is similar. It accepts a key, like salmon, for example. We're going to hash salmon and get that number back using our _hash function that's already defined for you. And once we get that value, we go to the position, that index in our array, the keymap array, and we retrieve the value. But of course, what that actually means, using separate chaining, one more time, rewinding here. For example, with salmon, we hash that, we get 4, we go to 4, there's possibly more than one item there. So we need to check based off of the key, salmon. We're going to loop through these and try and find salmon. And once we do, we return this whole thing. So there's no guaranteed order within. So we don't know if salmon will be the first one, the second one, the fifth one. We're just going to check. Once we get to index of 4 where salmon is, we're just going to look for salmon in that nested list. And then finally, if it's not in our hash table at all, return undefined. Just make sure it works. If someone tries to retrieve a value that's not there, we don't want to break our code. It should return undefined. Okay, so add these set and get to this code, or use your own hash function if you'd like, but just make sure that it meets the important criteria. It's deterministic, always the same output for a given input, and give it a shot. Let's implement this in the next video.